Welcome to the Hidden Potential Podcast. I'm your host, Omer Hargrove. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I would do if I was starting from scratch. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about major things that are perfect for those who are just starting out in their leadership ministry journey. And we're going to be able to talk about effective tools to be able to help you on the right path. Every week we come out with a new episode to be able to help you tap into your hidden potential. We do that by giving you practical mental tools to be able to use within your leadership and your organization. Let's go ahead and get started with our 5 big thoughts. And the first thing, I guess let me back up. I actually had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day, and they were talking about how they got offered this new ministry position. It's the very first time they were doing ministry position. If you're listening to this, I'm really proud of you. But I actually had a different episode planned for today, but I thought, why not? This would be a perfect episode. And so I'm going to talk about 5 things. That's what inspired about these 5 things that I would do if I was just at that beginning phase. I feel like a lot of times ministry can almost happen suddenly, just like that, to where you're not necessarily expecting to be a minister or expecting to be a leader. And then the opportunity just arises and you just step into it, not really knowing where to start. And so this episode is for you. So number 1, the very first thing that I would do is create my purpose, my mission, my values, and the vision that I have for this organization, this ministry, what I want to happen. And this is really important to establish at the beginning. And it's okay if it changes over time and you might adapt certain things. But the reason that this is a really big part is because you have to believe in it first before you can, in a sense, pitch it or sell it to other people. You have to really grasp what it is that you're wanting to do, or even more clearly, what problems are you wanting to solve. And as an example for our church, when I sat down and did this, I had very clear in mind from the beginning that I wanted to create a community for people who've never necessarily fit in at church. And Gravetop today is really just that. I mean, yes, people who are used to church can fit in, but it really fits best. It really solves a problem for people who've never necessarily felt comfortable at church or always felt like they were the outcast or the misfit. It is perfect for people like that. And I'm able to clearly define that within our mission, within our values, and our purpose. I mean, even our name really gives off this impression of a different kind of church. I mean, it's why I wear an eyebrow ring. It's like as fashionable as it may be. One of the main reasons I put my eyebrow ring back in was because of the audience that I'm trying to reach. To where when I meet somebody that has maybe they've even been hurt by church, and they meet me and they realize I'm a pastor, it gives off at least a curiosity of maybe this is a different kind of pastor than I've experienced before. And it is really all gearing towards meeting that problem that was in my heart and addressing the mission that was on my heart and really fulfilling our purpose. And that happened with this process of really clarifying my purpose, clarifying that mission, the values, and really clarifying that audience. And when you do that, it helps you to begin to think, why your ministry? What makes you unique as a leader or as an organization, as a ministry, as a church? What is it that makes you unique? Why should they choose this group opposed to any other group? And that's what you're doing within this purpose, mission, and values. And you want to make it kind of detailed, and again, this will change as you step into it. So again, don't get so hung up to where you never move past this point. When we started our church, we had a different name. Our church was actually originally called Mountain Church, and our purpose originally was love God, love people, make a difference, which now is like a general purpose for almost every church. And as we stepped into it, we were able to build out more clarity to those values and to our mission and our purpose, to where now our name is Gravetop Church and our purpose is to bring people from death to life. And we do that. Everything that we do is really geared towards that, and it's part of our motto. Like, it's on our shirts. It's everywhere, and people really resonate with that. So again, don't get so hung up to where you never move on past this point. Sometimes you just have to get this general direction down, and you'll start working out the details as you go. Now, number 2, create a flow of service, a flow of ministry, a flow of operations that is repeatable. This is pretty much like the bones of what you're doing. What is it that you want to happen during your events? And even consider, why are these things happening during your event? Don't just do things that other people are doing, but consider what it is you want to do and make sure that it's something that you want to do too. If you're just doing something to do it and there's no passion behind it, then you're going to feel that drain within the flow and the run sheet. And you want to, once you understand what it is that you're wanting to do, like if you're, say, like a new youth director or a youth pastor, and you have this general flow of service that is somewhat easily repeatable. That's what you're wanting to do, is you're wanting to consider what happens during this event and why, and you want to break up your time into activities on a run sheet. So for like when we were youth directors and we had a youth ministry, I kind of broke it up into a 20-20-20 rule. And it was, we had an hour of time, and it was 20 minutes of games at the beginning of service as people were getting there. And I had passive games, like we had a foosball table. And this is all stuff that we worked hard to be able to raise money to be able to purchase some of these things. But for us, there was an idea of having passive games when people first arrive. And again, this was for student ministry. And why passive games? We wanted people to, we wanted students to be able to have a sense of hangout without any, like running to the next thing. And that organically built camaraderie. It organically built friendships. And then the last like 5 minutes of that 20-minute time of games, we had like an icebreaker to where it was like a group game where we brought everybody together and got everybody to participate. And whether it was a group game or as like a stage game to where we had like 3 volunteers and the kids in the audience are still participating, laughing, whatever. And then it was 20 minutes of a message. And then it within that message time would be like maybe 5 minutes of worship. You know, it's just like you kind of play with it. And at the end, we had 20 minutes of small groups and discussion time. And so that the reason we did each of those things was we wanted to build community with the games. And we wanted to build the students' faith and their intelligence and comprehension of their faith and Christianity during the message time. And then during the small group time, we wanted them to critically think about the message they just heard. We wanted it to be applicable to them through that discussion time. And we wanted it to be used to build connection with other students. And each of those parts were critical, and it was like these 3 main pillars that held up our service. And so again, you're trying to build these pillars with your run sheet of what it is that you're doing and why is it worth doing. And the last part of this is critiquing as needed and as you go through this run sheet. There's going to be plenty of times where you're going and you realize like, maybe we shouldn't do this. You know, even for our Sunday service, we still include like feedback time, even though it's like a normal church service, and we have feedback time. And we're a growing church, and there's still times where I'll consider and ask our church members, do you all think that we should still include this feedback and discussion time? And almost overwhelmingly, our church members always say yes. And so it's like we're constantly thinking about how our service flows. We used to not have worship at the beginning of service. Now we have a worship song at the beginning of service. And so you're going to consistently want to critique, and you're not marrying this run sheet. You're more so, you can critique it and adapt it as needed. And with this kind of flow, you also want to intentionally plan switch up moments and days that are recurring. So like one thing that we would do as youth pastors is, I don't remember I don't know if it was like the last Friday of the month or what, but we would have once a month cereal night to where we just got like a bunch of different cereals and different milks, and we just had like a cereal party. And it was just something really simple, but kids loved it. We had higher attendance those days, better engagement. The kids really enjoyed this simple time of like the idea of eating cereal at church. And it was very simple, little creative, and it worked. We would have recurring events throughout the year. Like we would have an annual lock-in to where it was a really great event that funneled attendance and engagement. Kids looked forward to it. Kids would help volunteer for it. It had great camaraderie and community building. And then we also had like an annual conference that we would raise money for and take the students out of town to a different church where they could have this spiritual experience. And we also did like retreats and things like that. And there's these recurring engagements to where it switched things up and gave excitement to the students. Even as far as like what we do now, like for our church, we just started doing Bring a Friend Day to be on our baptisms. We do baptisms currently every quarter of the year. And now it was our first time doing to where we made the baptism day a Bring a Friend Day, to where we've been supplying flyers to our congregants and been hyping it up on social media and in service. And we did a raffle too, where we said that everyone who either brings a friend or is a friend that's brought gets to be entered in the raffle. And we gave away AirPods. And so it was like really simple, and it was one of our biggest turnouts for like a special event. It was awesome. It was we had one of the highest, I think it was the highest attendance we've ever had in the summer. Usually in the summer there's like a slump. It was one of our highest attended services, and it was this in the summertime. It was like just all around a great time. We had popsicles. We had all these different people brought snacks. It was just like we made it into this like little mini party, and people loved it. And on this idea of building events to be recurringly within your ministry and your organization, again, if you're just starting out, you need to understand that it's all about adaptability, and you're going to do certain events that may work and other events that won't work. There's been plenty of times where we try to do special events where it's like a hangout outside of church, and usually they've been a flop. Like we did park days and just no one would show up. People would be a part of the planning and say that this is a nice idea, and then we do it and no one would show up. And what we've found is that the best days to do any special event like is really on Sunday. As you know, as simple as it may sound, is like we had a really great attendance. So if that's what works for our group, rather than trying to force them to do something else, we're going to follow with what's working. So you got to keep that in mind whenever you're planning your services and your events, even when you're choosing which day to meet on. When we were youth pastors, we had the best success on doing our youth service during like the midweek Wednesday service at our old church. And that was the best day for us, hands down. When we did it on a Friday, we would have kids show up. We did have attendance, but nothing like Wednesday. We tried Sunday evenings after church, and again, we would have kids show up, but nothing like Wednesday. And so you may have to play around with the days and see which day works best for you, but you want to lean into what seems easiest when it comes to days. Don't be counterproductive in trying to force another day to work when it's just not working. And every group may be a little bit different. You got to just kind of flow with that when it comes to dates and timings. Today's episode is brought to you by my new book, Feed My Sheep, a 90-day devotional, is out now. You can order it either on my website, homerhargrove.com, or you can order it on Amazon. And if you do, please leave a rating and review letting me know what you think about the book. It really would mean a lot to me, and it really helps support this channel. Again, that is Feed My Sheep. That being said, let's get back to today's episode. Now that leads us into number 3, which is one thing I would do is network my power base and current opportunities with in-person engagement. Now, a power base is pretty much your immediate friends and family, and those are the people that you're directly in connection with. And you would want to reach out to whoever's closest in trying to build up this team. And what I mean by that is you're wanting to create authentic connections and with these people, because they're most likely going to be the people that are initially engaging with your new ministry or your new connection. And every dynamic is different. Like I don't think I had any family members ever really like engage with our ministries or support in that way. But I did have different friends and acquaintances and coworkers that I've met that were in that immediate power base, and they were and there's many times where it was like initially power empowered those beginning moments. I think I need to recheck what I said. When we first started our church originally, we had 20 people show up, and that was with like no marketing, no flyers, no anything. And we just said, all right, let's just start having a service. And we had over 20 people, 18 people show up. And that was primarily because of the few people that were in our power base that invited and were a part of making that initial impact. And that wasn't even intentional back then. I had no idea what I was doing. And that was just like our first try. And now moving forward, if I were to start all over again, I would pull everybody and their mother that I could to be a part of that. Whether it's a launch day or whether it's part of building a core team, you want to try to get anybody and everybody that you're connected to. And even if they're not necessarily like church people, you don't count them out. There's been so many times where I would throw off like the blanket of judgment and thinking that, oh, well, they wouldn't want to be a part. And now to invite people and ask them, and do you think that you could help out with this? Or I'm planning this event. Do you think that you could come? And I was really taken back and surprised by the people who said yes. I was even surprised by the people that said no. I was like, you're not going to go? I thought we were really close. And it was just, you never know what people will say. So don't be intimidated to ask people that you currently know. Even if it's like your dentist, just like invite everybody that you're in immediate connection with, and you will be surprised at who shows up. And a big part of this is that you need to work on being authentic in these connections with people. No one likes feeling used. And so as you're inviting these people, you want to be comprehensive of what you bring to that relationship and how you show that person that you care. There's some people that you could just send with a text. There's other people that maybe you should meet up with coffee first or go get some food with. And as y'all are talking and catching up, at some point, just bring it up and say, hey, I'm actually doing this thing and I wanted to see if you would be a part. And you'll be able to get a lot more participation by showing people that you actually care about them and that you're not just trying to use them. And a big part of networking your power base like this and looking for current opportunities is that you're wanting to involve people to also find purpose. You're not just inviting to an event, but empower them by feeling like they're bringing value to whatever ministry, organization, or leadership thing that you're doing. And it will help them to feel like they're actually doing something rather than just showing up and waiting to leave. They feel like they're contributing because they care about you just like you care about them. And it'll be such a better return when they have something to do. And so one last thing on this note is that in order to ask other people to be involved with what you're doing, you need to involve yourself with what other people are doing. You want to consistently try to find opportunities to support or at least participate, show up to other people's events. There's plenty of times where I've been invited to something that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but I wanted to go and show my support. And there's a lot of different, and you got to understand that your return of investment of time is not always dimes and cents. It's not just money or other people's time. You got to understand that you're investing trust when you show up to people in their events and the things that they're doing. And there's been so many times where just me showing up for other people, I didn't even have to ask of anything. They started giving me opportunities. I mean, so there's been literally so many speaking engagements that I've had just without me even offering. I'm not even offering speaking engagements to these people when I'm showing up. But as I'm showing up and being consistent, being supportive, they appreciate me so much where they're asking me to speak at their next event, or they're asking me to be involved in a higher capacity. And other times where people even donated towards my ministry just because of me showing up to their thing. I never even had to ask, but because of that investment of time, energy, and trust that I'm showing them, that they gave it back tenfold. And so you got to understand that that when you show up for others, it really does make a difference back on you. Now, the idea of building, when I said building a core team, this is the idea of there's two different ways that you could start out. You could either be starting out to where you say you're like my friend that just got hired and they already have say like a youth group, and you're just going to be in a sense like continuing the motion, like the wheel is already spinning in a sense, and you're just jumping in and seeing what to do next. There's other times where you're building from scratch to where there's no one apart, there's no rhythm, there's no scheduled time, and you're just building from nothing. So there's two ways to do it. One, if it's already in motion, the people that are there are committed because they're showing up even when there's not been a leader there. Like they're sticking it out even through the transitions. And so you need to see that those people are core people. Those are people that are going to be willing to serve. Those are going to be people that are willing to help. And so you want to really utilize them the best that you can. If you don't have that, you're starting from scratch, you're going to be working that power base to build that core group of people. And these are going to be the people that you can build up and rely on to help move this ministry or organization forward. And you want to, if you're already meeting regularly, then you're going to just start trying to pour into those people. If you're not meeting yet, you can pour into the people that are willing to participate in this core team as you get ready to launch, and you're going to be pouring into these people. You're wanting to invest loyalty into these people, and they will in turn give back to you tenfold. It will be a great return if you show these people that you care. And you're going to, again, just be building up this team so that it's not just all relying on the two hands that you got. Now let's go into our number 4. Number 4 is market a special day or launch day, both in person and online. So I just described a second ago about if you're already in motion, then what you would want to plan is a special marketing day, like a day, like whether it's a bring a friend day or a special event. To where you could use that core team of people that you've been investing in to help support this big party that you're going to plan. And this is going to be like a big hype day. You're going to want to make it special. You're going to want to make it fun. You might want to consider doing like a raffle prize. Make it interesting enough to show up to. And consider that if you wouldn't want to go to it, why would anyone else want to go to it? You want to make it a meaningful experience to be had. And if you haven't started anything yet and you've been building up your core team in the background, then you want to plan your launch day. This is the day where you're going to have your first service, and it's going to be very similar in the sense that you're with a part, like this idea of having a party and raffle, whatever it is. And you're going to want to really just push that both in person and online. And I can't stress in person enough. I feel like we either sway one or the other, or we just give up entirely. So in person is the idea of giving out flyers, flyers to people, in something in hand. And there's a lot of ideas about when it comes to in-person flyers, and people think, oh, it's just a waste of money. It's better to just do everything online. Consider this. I throw away nearly all my junk mail, right? But even with my junk mail, I'll read it before I throw it away. Even if it's just like this random magazine of coupons, even though I'm going to throw it away, want to look through it first. And when I get like a postcard from a random business, I'll generally read it first before I throw it away. And that is what is passive marketing. They're in my mind, they're living in my head. And when I will recognize them whenever I see them again. Consider that I don't think I ever order Chinese food anymore, but whenever I get a Chinese door hanger on my door, I keep it just in case. Like, it sits on my fridge and it's just living in my house. Their logo is living in my house. Their menu is living in my house. Their name is there on my fridge. So consider that in-person marketing, like flyers and handouts, is useful. It does have a place. Now, so does online work too. Online marketing is just as important. And I would say that if you're just starting out, do not think that if you just throw money at Facebook ads that it's going to just do the job for you. It's not necessarily that effective. People will just see it and keep scrolling. And most of from my experience, other people may have different experiences, but from my experience, every time that I've tried that, the only comments that I would get were people that were mad that I was showing up on their feed. And people were literally commenting, "Why is this crap showing up on my feed?" And I never got any great engagement. Never had anyone show up to service because they saw a Facebook video. But just to consider that when you do make social media, that is a place where people go to investigate. People are going to be looking at your social media page, and when they do see something, if someone shares something, they're going to be investigating your social media page. You want to have all the information there. You want it to be clear, and you want it to look lively. You want to don't just use your social media as a type of like email list. You're not using it to just post dates and times. You want to show people. Consider what you like, what makes you interested on other people's feeds or other businesses' feeds. If you're gonna go to a restaurant, you don't really care if they put a picture of like their special in lettering. You want to see an image of the food. You want to see people enjoying it. And the same goes for your group or organization. You want to show people. So use those core people and take some pictures of them. Have those people send you like a video clip of saying how they're so excited about the event that you're going to promote. And use people to be that face on online presence. And one more thing that I want to share when it comes to flyers and handouts. I think that it's even exceptional when you're able to. If you could really utilize other events or get creative when it comes to handouts and giving something very simple away for free with it. So like as an idea, when we were youth pastors, we did two major things that when it came to handouts. One, there was a parade, like a big parade that they would always have in Del Rio, and we had the idea. It was kind of like running into one of our major events, and so I made flyers for the event, and we just got like a whole bunch of water and got even ice and poured them in these big barrels. And it was just like all these bottles of water, ice cold. And we went out and we just parked somewhere and we were handing out free water to everybody at this parade. And it really did piss off the people that were selling water, other churches that were selling water for $1, but we were giving them away for free with a handout. So it was like, here's a water, here's the handout. And not one person was mad except the people selling waters. And it gave this generous impression of the event that we were hosting. Another thing that we did is when we were trying to get regular attendance to our youth group, our church was conveniently placed next to the high school, and a lot of kids would be walking home by our church, and so we would just go set up with ice cold like Capri Suns, and we would hand out every students that were walking, we would just offer them free Capri Sun with the flyer invite to our youth group. And again, it was a simple method that was really effective, and it gave a great impression for these young people, and as they were walking home, and we're the free juice guys. So again, you want to be creative when it comes to these kind of marketing strategies. And one last thing when it comes to marketing yourself is building your reviews through your core is pivotal. And so if you've already launched, if at all possible, whether it's on Facebook, especially on Google, if you're able to create, if your church or ministry organization has a Google business page, you need to build the reviews on that page, especially on Google. People use Google to search for things. That is almost every person that's tried our church from online found us on Google, and it's the reviews that caused them to be interested or curious enough to try our church opposed to other churches. And you want to really build those reviews up. And so, especially with that core team, pitch this vision to them that you need to really build up your reviews. Whether it's, if you have a Google business page, then do that. If not, use Facebook. If you have both, then do both. But you want to just build reviews as much as you can from this power base of core team that you created to build up this positive impression, because people are going to check that first, most likely, before trying out. And it could be a make or breaker depending on the kind of reviews that you have. Now, we're on the very last point. And I know this episode is going a little bit longer than I initially anticipated. So I hope it's helpful for you. But the last thing that I would do if I was starting all over would be to prepare and make that experience excellent in the things that matter. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of details and elements that go into creating an event or a service, and it's easy to get lost in the details when it comes to all the different things. So you need to consider what it is that you're doing and what it is that you do best. So as with an average service, you're going to look at all the things that go into it, is say like activities, games, participation, community, the message, the content that you share, maybe the music if you have live music, your food, all these different things. You want to look at what it is that you have that is great, that you're good at, and really make it a point to make that the prime motivation. As an example, for our church, the two best compliments that we always get is that our content and the messages that we give out are great, and that the community feels so authentic. And so we focus on that more than everything else. This is the first year that we have like live worship for our church, and it's been great. It's been a really refreshing. It's been awesome. Before that, we would just have YouTube videos, and it's very easy to. It's very easy to, if you're in that kind of situation, to stress about, oh, well, we don't have live worship. That should be like, we should really just try to change things and make that happen. And you'll get lost in the details by trying to chase things that are out of your control. We had to just accept that we just don't got that. We don't have that capability. What we will focus on are the things that we do well. And we just focused on our message content and the community, and our church grew with just that. Even though we didn't have the nice equipment, we didn't have a great space. We didn't even have a great meeting space. We didn't have anything else really working up when it came to the idea of it being excellent. But our content was really good, and our community was really authentic. People love our community, and we were able to grow by just focusing on the things that we're good at. And there's the temptation to get distracted and try to work on these other things that are just only going to be subpar no matter how much you try until you're able to grow. And you will end up taking away from the things that you're doing well. For me, there's plenty of times where the temptation was for me to chase one of these details, but the only way to do that, it was going to distract me from creating the message time, from the spiritual things that go into the message. And you just got to understand that you need to just take a breath and focus on the things that you can do well. And if you don't know what that is yet, then critically think, be honest with yourself, and consider what it is, and then ask people near you, even people within that core team you're creating, of what it is that you think that y'all do well together. And don't worry about the details that aren't within your control or your power. Those things will come when it's ready. when it comes, another thing about preparing and making that experience powerful, I think that so often we get caught up in the practical details of preparing for this event. It's where we often neglect the spiritual components that provoke an anointed experience. If everything works out practically excellent, but people aren't moved spiritually, if they're not moved with emotionally or what have you, then it was just nice. Yeah, that was cool. But you have to understand that you're wanting to provoke an experience that's memorable. And so again, don't get lost in the details. Prepare with the things that matter. And then finally, you need to follow up with the experience. Follow up with the experience. Follow up with your volunteers and give just great appreciation, pats on the back, and be ready for your next experience. But you also want to follow up with those participants and the consumers that came to your event. Whether it's if you're able, you want to have in mind how can we capture their information to be able to reach out to them. How can we make a next step process? How can we get those people to come back a second time? And how can we make it seem like the best experience that they would want to return to? You're just wanting to you don't want it to just be a one-time experience that was great, but it was a revolving door. You want to critically think about how you can make that experience good enough to come back to again. And that happens through follow-up. So with all that being said, I hope that today was meaningful for you. I hope that was edifying for your leadership. Let me give you 3 takeaways before we end our episode today. Number 1, evaluate your current situation and make a step plan of what you need to do next with what we talked about today. Maybe you already did number 1 and 2, and you need to see about doing number 3, 4, 5. See where you're at and make a conscious step plan of what you're going to do next. Number 2, create an immediate plan of who you need to meet with in person and start building your connections in your core team. And number 3, make a simple follow-up plan to keep participants engaged and primed to come back. I hope that this was meaningful for you. I really appreciate you being a part of today's episode. If you haven't heard, I came out with my new book. It's my very first book that I've published called Feed My Sheep. It's a 90-day devotional, and I would love if you would order one of these books and let me know what you think. If you order on Amazon, leave a review, but you could also just order from my website, homerhargrove.com. And I really appreciate all of you who have hyped me up and have ordered the book already, but it's officially out. Again, you can find it at homerhargrove.com. You can also find it on Amazon, and the book is Feed My Sheep, and it's the first volume of a series devotional that I'm going to be releasing more coming forward. But it's the first volume, and I really would love to hear your thoughts on it. All that being said, thank you for being a part. Until next time, have a great life. Well, there you have it. I hope that this episode was meaningful and edifying for your leadership and your growth within your ministry and organization. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It'd really help me out and help others be able to see this show in their feed. You can also visit homerhargrove.com to be able to learn more, connect, or become one of our supporters. Until next time, have a great life.